Okay, so I'm getting signal.
Okay, I think it's starting to come through on YouTube on my end.
All right. Actually, I am live on my channel already.
You're live?
Yeah, I mean, there are no viewers. Stupid title. Performance chat with... Okay. It just put the wrong title and description. Like, the title was streaming with Flatin Live, you know? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready to go when you are.
Go for it.
Boom. And we're live.
All
All
right.
right. What is going on, Ruben?
How's it going? Do you like my OBS
Good.
improvised layout?
Yeah, it's cool. We got both our logos here. Nice. Yeah, so welcome
can you do a
everybody.
favor for me, Jenny? Can you just double check that there is audio or something in your channel? Because, you know, I don't want to mess this up.
Yeah, welcome in everybody. Before we get into it, if you could just post in the chat, make sure you can hear both of us. Both Ruben and I should be talking. I want to make sure that our audio levels sound good before we're going live. As you can tell, we're doing an improvised OBS layout here. But yeah, hope you're all doing well today. Kind of doing a little bit of a fun little just hangout stream. Just kind of chatting with Ruben here. Yeah, looks like someone's saying everything is okay.
Is it
Awesome.
also beautiful,
Chinese New Year,
guys?
What's that?
It's okay, but is it also beautiful? Like, can someone tell me if you guys like the layout, please? I just put a lot of effort into this.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you all for confirming here. Yeah, Ruben handpicked out this beautiful pink background because, well, why don't you tell him? Why did you pick it out?
I just see a lot of pink stuff going on in the Unity forums as a way of, you know, just complaining about the shader graph stuff and the pipelines and all of these things. So, you know, I think it fits pretty well to an improvised OBS layout. It makes it pretty clear that it's improvised, I think, right?
Yeah, I think it's fitting. Well, cool. So yeah, welcome in everybody to this kind of impromptu live stream. Wanted to just kind of hang out, chat about game development a little bit. Of course, we're streaming to my channel, the Turbo Makes Games YouTube channel, as well as Ruben's channel. Ruben, why don't you give your channel name a shout out?
All right, let's do that. What should I do, Johnny? Just post the link to my channel, I assume?
Well, just you can shout out the name of it, and actually, you can send it to me.
Honestly, do not know. It should be the TheGamedev.Guru, but yeah, it is. I'm going to send it here, guys. By the way, before anyone freaks out about who the hell is this guy who doesn't know how to do YouTube, and yeah, you're right. I mean, I have almost zero experience doing YouTube stuff, and I think I have like 700 subscribers, which is pretty sad. But, you know, I have been doing mostly blogging and the text part, right? So that explains it.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about your blog a little bit. How did that all come about, and what kinds of things you've been writing about on there?
Honestly, it's been a few months, I think, that I don't publish much. It's been a pretty busy year. Last year, I was working like 80% of the year I was working on a new Assassin's Creed that is coming out. Hopefully, although I can't tell anything else than that. And then I said, okay, so now that I'm done with this project, helping out with this project, I think that was about November, it is time for me to quit my job and do full-time training, consulting, and projects in the area of game performance, just performance in general. So now that I have a bit more time, you know, I will be spending that on not only on the Unity Performance Task Force, but also on blogging, and maybe, you know, my next milestone journey could be to reach 800 subscribers on YouTube. What do you think?
Hey, I like that. So yeah, if you're watching this, definitely go check out Ruben's channel. Let's get him up to 800 subscribers. Yeah, are you gonna start posting videos on there every once in a while? What do you think?
Yeah, I've been posting videos every once in a while, although the definition of every once in a while might differ. Look, someone says someone forgot to upgrade the material to URP. Yeah,
I
someone
like
is
that.
getting this pink color. Yeah, I don't know, honestly. I would like to do like one video a week, see where that brings me. But it is also a grind, right? What's your experience doing this, Johnny?
Totally. Like as far as like a cadence for putting videos out and everything, you mean?
Yeah, like you have been publishing content for like 2 years, 3. I'm just making it up.
Longer than that actually, but yeah, I've pretty much just like yeah, one thing for me is like just being super consistent, just like always making sure that I have like a video coming out every week, and I've been able to keep that up for a number of years now, and I think it's definitely led to some nice steady growth, and I've been able to explore a bunch of like really cool and interesting topics, maybe some things that I might not have done before if I didn't kind of hold myself to that one video per week kind of standard. But yeah, I think that's been that's been good for me, and I would kind of like to pick it up a little bit more again, and maybe get up to like 2 videos per week, because I was doing that for a little while, and yeah, I think it's good just like
What
be able to
happened? Life
explore more
happened, right?
topics, and yeah, basically
So
just a lot going on, but still been able to keep up that 1 video per week.
sounds good, man. I admire your consistency. And I should actually aim for that. I think I was posting like one post per week for a year. And that takes a lot of time because you have to, it was like long form posts. I don't know if it was like 1,000 words or something like this. But that was a pretty high frequency, right? And I was able to hold it for 1 year. I mean, you guys can have a look at my blog if you want. I'm just going to post the link. And then, like I said, life happens, and I don't know what it happened, and then I just got out of control. But yeah, I'm going back to all of this, I promise.
Here, actually, send me the link to your blog in the Discord chat, and then I have to post it into the live chat. I don't think it'll let you post links.
Gotcha. Like I said, that is my fault. I'm a noob in YouTube, but that's also good, right? Because I don't care what people do usually in YouTube. I just do what I feel like doing. Hey, Johnny, do you want me to tell you what I did this morning? I think it's gonna be interesting.
Do I want to know what you did this morning?
Let me grab it. Just 1 second.
All right. Well, while we're waiting, we're figuring out what do we think that Ruben is going to be showing off. I feel like he has a receipt.
You saw it? Crap, spoiled it.
I don't know what's on the receipt.
So I decided on February I decided this on December, right? That I wanted to give a free bonus to my members, the performance task force members. And then I'm trying to measure my words because I don't want to spoil anything before it arrives, right? And then I got to this project. I started on December, and I was actually done with this project, with this bonus, just last week. And, it took me like 2 weeks of logistics to make this bonus a reality. And today I went to the post to ship it. And this is the first time that I have to do like bulk shipping of something, right? Not sure if you have done something like this. Have you, Johnny? Like shipping stuff? And so I went like with 2 huge bags of stuff that I wanted to post, right, to the shop. And when they saw me, it was like, oh, you're going to post all of this? I was just like, hell yes. So there was like a huge post shop. I don't know, how do you call this in English? There were like 6 employees. Well, I was there for 1 hour, and I got like all the employees busy for 1 hour. Like 6 people were just taking my shit. And this is the result, man. Like all the tracking numbers, there are like probably like 40 or something like this. And yeah, I just shipped all of these bonuses today, and it feels good, man. I probably have done some inefficiencies in the way, but it's fun, right? It's fun to try new things out.
Nice. Yeah, I remember seeing a couple emails about you talking about the bonuses that you're giving away. So I was curious what those are, but sounds like you're keeping it a secret for now.
Yes, and actually, I think I didn't ship it to you, but if you give me your address, I can maybe get it arranged.
Ooh.
Because I think you are my favorite live stream buddy. Out of two
Yeah,
people.
yeah, definitely.
Out of two people. And I like the other one as well. A lot.
Okay. All right. And yeah, so actually some people have some interesting questions in the chat here. So how many followers did you get from blogging per day? How has kind of been your growth from blogging? What kinds of results have you seen from that?
So I don't know how to measure followers in terms of blogging, but because there is nothing like subscribe button. But
Right.
I can actually be totally transparent with this. I can just open my Google Analytics, and it is about 6,000 users per month. And my email list, I don't know how big it is, probably is quite small because I keep annoying people with my emails. They tend to be quite controversial, right? Which is a funny thing
You have some funny ones. You have some funny ones, though.
some people are like, I love your content, please keep writing these things. And other people are like, I hate you. But they never unsubscribe. I don't get it. Like, if you say that you hate me, why don't you unsubscribe? Sometimes I just unsubscribe them if they are trolling too much, or if you know what I mean. But
Nice.
yeah, kind of controversial, I guess, that I like drama somehow.
Cool. And then, so yeah, is that the castle from the Lord of the Rings behind you?
The castle from Lord of the Rings. I don't know what you're talking about, but my camera is not well set. I just tilted that. Like I said, I was going to screw this up all the time, but I don't care. The background is pink for a reason. Actually, I don't know the background. I took it from the internet. I hope not to have any problems with copyright. Some lawyer here in the stream. If you guys see any lawyer around, just let me know. And Johnny, please kick them out. So talking about,
Nice.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, Johnny. Talking about unsubscribes and people trolling you, or just being toxic. How do you deal with these, kind of, let's say, creatures?
That hasn't really been too much of a problem for me, thankfully. I think, most of the people in my community are just, super positive. They actually are, here to learn about games and, are super interested in getting into the nitty gritty about all that kinds of stuff. But, for the most part, I feel like if you just kind of ignore it and move on with your day, then, those people just kind of go away. And they'll just kind of move on to, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I've grown a very positive community here, and yeah, hasn't been too much of an issue for me.
That's pretty good, man. I guess I attract both types of developers. But when I sometimes in my emails I write about trolls, who write to me or something. Of course, I leave them anonymous, right? Because just to be polite and things. When I kind of talk about the trolls, for some reasons, ever since I do that on my emails, I just get fewer of them. I guess that some of them might fear that I expose them, and in some parts I do, but still anonymous. Sometimes it's just a bit of fun because I don't want to get bored with my job, and part of that fun is learn how to deal with trolls and toxic people. But yeah, he's getting an even better beard, Adam. Where's your beard, actually, Johnny? All right.
Shaved off.
You shave every day or something?
No. A couple times a week or so.
All right. I cannot shave because the few times that I did, like totally shaved, my girlfriend told me that I look like a baby, and it's not a nice compliment coming from your girlfriend. So gonna leave the beard at least 3 centimeters.
It's funny. It's funny.
Anyway, let's talk about performance, man. Sorry, I just
really like absolutely
to talk about random stuff like this. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, so I was just going to say, so you do a bunch of like performance consulting work. So I was just kind of curious, are there any like common themes that you find between like a bunch of different teams and developers that you see are, definitely like a common problem for performance?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem that I see is that people do development just to ship it. And then at the end, before shipping that is like, oh, we cannot ship it because it's running at 20 FPS or whatever. And the reason is that they never cared about performance, right? And that's when they call me, which is good for me because that way they are clients. And but the problem is that it's also very late in the development cycle, right? If you have to tell the artist, please change all the models to wherever, to use a different UV set of coordinates, whatever, just an example, okay, a random example, then it's going to be very expensive, both for them and, for the internal team and for me, right? But I mean, it is business, it happens, it is real life, right? Like, I think, who was that? Jason, wait just a second. Who said, I think it was a boxer, right? Who said that this thing that everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face?
Oh, Mike Tyson?
Yeah, exactly. That's my experience in life. People, plan for the good things and then, these things happen.
That's funny.
And they call me. And one of the things that I see most often is that people leave it for too late. I don't say that you should care about performance from the beginning. Like if you're just prototyping, I don't give a F about it. But if you know that whatever you are doing is going to be shipped, you have to take care of performance from day one, right?
Yeah. Now, when you're working with these teams and they say they come to you kind of late, do they already have like kind of a target ship date for when they want to launch their game or maybe launch into early access or something like that? Do they typically already have that all set?
Yes, indeed, they do usually. I mean, it's always last minute. Most of the time, it is last minute.
Yeah, so that was kind of going to be my next question. Is like how long is it like? How close to release is it typically when they come to you and say, hey, can you just, help out with performance on a couple of things here? And really, you're like, oh yeah, you need to revamp your whole game. So how much time do you typically start working with people? Like how close to release?
I'm going to show something along these lines because it's going to make a lot of sense when you see this. I just need to share my screen, which I am going to do in a very improvised way, of course. Here it is. Plus display capture. Not that one. Display 2. You guys see something here?
I think there might be a little bit of a delay between.
Okay. That's fine.
You doing that? Yeah. Oh, I see. OBS. Okay, now I think we're good. I see your web browser. Yeah.
Yeah, I have all my secrets here. So this is my webpage for consulting, right? Which I haven't updated in ages. But the interesting part about this is the form that I use for my clients. So if if someone like or a game studio or something, they want to get consulting, I make them go through this form, and you just put a few of these things, and what are you interested on, whatever, like optimization, and whatever I want. Just going through this very quickly. So the options that I normally let people choose from is usually like higher frame rate or memory improvements or lower packet size or faster loading times. I'm pretty sure there are more things that people care about, maybe like battery drain and heat and all of these things, but this is the general things. And
oh, so you have this kind of questionnaire to kind of figure out what kinds of things people are interested in. Nice.
Yeah, and also it helps people gaining clarity on what they want, right? Because I got tired of getting into calls where it's like, hey, I need help in performance. And when I ask, okay, what do you need exactly help with? And they just, stare at me like, I don't know.
What's your deadline to achieve your goal? Yesterday,
yes.
1 week, 1 to 4 weeks, 1 month plus. I like how these are all like very tight date ranges, but yeah.
Exactly. So the first iteration of this form was to have I think it was 1 to 4 weeks, and then a bit more than 1 month.
Like 1 year out,
exactly.
2 years out.
And then as soon as I got more clients, I realized that no one chose the, more than 3 months. So I completely removed it. And some people were actually like, I need it for yesterday. I said, okay, actually, that's a good idea. Let's put it for yesterday. And I just added this like two weeks ago, the option of yesterday, right?
I like that. I feel like, and if someone selects that, then they kind of have that like extra urgency, and you could probably charge more for your consulting services if they need them like ASAP,
Yeah, I usually have like a flat rate. But if they say that they need it for yesterday, I try to make a bit of space on my calendar for them. Yeah, just to finish this part, if you're curious, I also ask how many employees does your studio have, the revenue of the studio, and all of this. Because if someone writes here like, 1,000 bucks in 1 year, I know that they will not be able to afford usually my fees, right?
Makes sense.
I just disabled the screen sharing. Going back to our beautiful faces. Do we have questions, Johnny? I think we do. Right?
Hey, well, I see we got Jason Wyman in the chat here. What's going on, Jason? Says you're watching, keeping an eye on the toddlers. Nice. Good to have you in here.
Yeah, pretty good to have Jason around. Actually, I was going to join maybe the live stream or like a game dev show from Jason and a few more. I think it was over the weekend, but it was very short term, so I didn't make it. Jason, don't forget to invite me next time,
Yeah, I was on his show on Sunday. It was a fun show. Got to talk a little bit about dots and had to answer a bunch of questions from the audience. Talked a little bit about NFTs and some artwork stuff, and I feel like it was just a good array of topics.
I haven't watched it, but because I couldn't, sadly. But yeah, I will probably catch up later. I'm not hanging around YouTube too much, honestly. I think I should, but have you tried TikTok, Johnny?
Nope, not at all.
People are having a lot of fun there, huh?
I'm having a lot of fun on YouTube.
Like enough fun for now, right? Okay, by the way, coming back to actually starting with the topic of performance optimization, I was dealing with some challenging scenario, and I think I should be able to show this because there's no information about any type of confidential information. Let me just make sure I can share this. It is just, like a small profile I'm going to show. How do I do this? I go to OBS and screen share, I assume. Yes, there we go.
Actually, would you be able to screen share through Discord so I could see it as well? Like it'll pop up on my live stream window, but it is a little bit delayed.
That's a bit of a stretch, man, because I'm not confident enough with my OBS improvised abilities. So if I do that,
no problem. I can see it on YouTube. See it on YouTube.
So this is one profile that I got, I think this morning, was that? And the target platform here is a Chromebook. In fact,
Oh yeah.
I can show it to you side by side. Just going to change the layout. This is the famous Chromebook I'm working on. Which now, it looks like a laptop, and I guess it is somehow like a laptop, but it is extremely
a laptop.
shitty. Like, it's got like an old AMD with 2 cores and 2 threads. Do you know the Intel Celerons? Those that some mini PCs have, or embedded devices. It's worse than that. It has 2 cores, 2 threads, and it cannot really, do much with it. Not even Unity, because Unity, as you can see on the screen, maybe in 1 minute, you see that luckily it manages to spawn a render thread, and that's not always the case for some reason. For some reason, Unity thinks there is only 1 core, and sometimes I just see a main thread, and everything is done in the main thread, which is crazy.
Okay.
And also, luckily, we have 1 worker in the job system, right? So,
hey.
And one of the things that is super interesting to see, and I was kind of disappointed from this platform, is that the CPU is extremely slow. Have you ever used occlusion culling? Just as an example.
Not extensively.
Okay, so basically with occlusion culling, you are able to, you know what? I'm just going to show it on Paint. You are able to, if this is the player, which is the camera, right? If this is, let's say, a house, you normally, when you're looking at the house, you render the house, right? But if you have a wall in between, by default, you still render the house, okay? Even if you cannot see it, even if the site is blocked, right? However, you can get around that by using occlusion culling. So basically, the way it works is that you select a few static flags and such, and Unity calculates, not Unity actually, but Umbra, which is the technology that Unity uses, starts baking cells, visibility cells, and then depending on the position of the camera, you can tell whether things are visible or not. Right. So with occlusion culling, you are able to stop rendering this house, which is good for 2 things. The first thing is you don't prepare the draw call for this house. And the second thing is that you don't incur in overdraw, because the GPU might decide for whatever reason to draw this and then this. And that the drawing or rendering of this house will be a waste, right? So that typically, it costs maybe like half a millisecond top. Normal devices, sometimes 0.2, 0.3, whatever. Here, we're talking about 7.4 milliseconds. And this is the good case scenario.
Wow.
I think I have managed to get it a bit slower. But I was easily seeing here like 11 milliseconds, which is pretty crazy. And if you think about that, if you have just occlusion culling taking 11 milliseconds, where is the rest of your budget, right?
Yeah,
because,
no kidding.
If you're targeting 30 FPS, which is a low thing already by today's standards, you have 30 milliseconds. If you're spending 10 milliseconds in occlusion culling, and then you spend, 10 milliseconds in animation, which is the case here, and then physics 4 milliseconds, like you have no room for anything. So yeah, 11 milliseconds on this Chromebook, which is pretty much crazy. Now we are kind of almost there, but yeah, this has been like a work that has been ongoing for at least 1 month, and the budget for draw calls, by the way, that I established for this project is a maximum of 40. So it's going to be a pretty fun thing to reach.
So what other kinds of things have you been doing in this project in particular to optimize? Because I know that this has been a fun one for you.
Yeah, so batching, like a lot of batching, that's the typical thing you can do with things like Mesh Baker. I'm not going to go into detail of that because I guess most people know about that, right? Batching, like GPU instancing, static batching. I don't like so much dynamic batching, so I avoid that. But those are the main things I've done in batching. Physics optimization. But one of the most challenging things has been UI optimization. We saw in the past like 120 draw calls just from UI in this project. And the budget for the entire game is 40. So that was crazy. I got it down to 5 draw calls. And it's a penny in the... may I say us? Yes, I guess I can say that. Or are they going to ban me from YouTube? No.
I think you're fine.
To optimize UI, you have to be playing with the hierarchies and with the sprite atlases and with animations and canvas revealers. But the biggest challenge so far was to optimize animators, because as soon as you have like one animator, it's going to start sucking your performance juice so badly. And I've seen this project animators everywhere, animators in the UI, animators in wherever. In theory, you should only have animators for 3D characters. So I removed all the animators that didn't belong to characters, and that helped a lot because we started with about 20 milliseconds on animation, which is more than the half of my budget, right? And then the challenge after that was to do the batching of skinned mesh renderers. You have 40 NPCs or avatars or whatever, and each skin mesh renderer is normally a draw call. People usually separate the skin mesh renderer draw calls by, like body and head. And I'm still work in progress, but I got mostly to batch all of these draw calls almost together. So that was pretty hard, considering that you have these animation graphs going on and all of these things.
Right. All right. And so I see a question in here. Is there a way that I can filter frames that have draw calls more than 150? In short, frame filtering based on parameters. Do you know of any way that you could do that?
I don't know about that. I know that you can use the profiler analyzer to filter frames that have that cost you more than X amount of milliseconds, I believe. But filtering rendering stuff by the rendering category, I don't know. I would probably just disable the other categories like triangles and vertices and have a look at the graph or the chart.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Maybe visually it helps. And of course, you can also go all in, okay, and do the following. You can just use the profiler metric API, which is not available everywhere, but let me check. Profiler metric or profile recorder API from Unity, and then you can just create your own charts by using whatever front-end charting library that you want, for example, chart.js or something. And then you can just record the metrics that you want and do your own graphs, right? You can record metrics like number of draw calls, number of triangles that you are rendering, and many of these things are super interesting. And I have used this API a lot when I built automation systems for performance testing for many of the projects, right? Basically,
cool, yeah.
You get a chart with the number of milliseconds that you spent in one level, if you go like through a level or something like this. And you can also record the number of draw calls, the number of triangles, and all of these things, number of batches.
And just kind of do your own reporting on it, basically.
Yep. I have something like that around here, but I don't think I can show that. But you can do this. And I have done this like at least in 4 projects, where you have like a chart, and then you can use different series and see how things affect each other. You can see, for example, a spike in the frame rate, and as well at the same time a spike in the number of draw calls, and that can give you a hint. So actually, I will be doing some of that in this month of the performance task force. I don't say this to promote it, but I just thought about it. That the second
just some
week,
topics that are on the
the second week is the second or third week is going to be about how to build an automated performance testing, let's call it pipeline or setup, where you just run a scene and then you just get a nice chart with the result, right? So, but excited about it.
Yeah, definitely. I do see that we have a super chat from Daniel in here, so awesome. Thank you so much for that. And looks like he's got a performance-related question here. So it says, how many set pass calls are reasonable for a game? Using sorting group with sprites and text mesh breaks batching and only the text batched.
So normally, like I have a checklist. I don't know if I have it here. I have something called performance checklist. Normally there I say that you should aim for fewer than 200 raw calls. And I think something like 60 set passes for mobile. But it is so relative, right? You know, by today's standards, I think that's a good number. But then you go to these Chromebooks, and I would say don't go above 40 draw calls, right? 40 to 50. But yeah, there are no hard rules that I would set, because if you can also have 100 draw calls and just decide not to have physics or decide not to have animators.
Right.
It is always
there's always a performance trade-off. Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, it looks like Daniel actually sent in another super chat, maybe giving some more context here. So awesome. Thank you again for that. So let's see, when I do this, my set pass calls go from 15 to 20 max to 80 plus max. How many set pass calls are too much in a high performance game?
Depends on your platform. Like 80 is still okay, I think, for mobile, unless you go for the low end spectrum, like maybe a Samsung Galaxy S6, maybe S5 would be low end. I think with 80 you should be all right, but again, it depends on two things: your target hardware and your budget, right? If you do nothing with physics, then you can go higher. If you do nothing with AI, nothing with networking, nothing with, don't know, say something else, Yoni.
you had it going, but no. I think what you're getting at is it really is a performance kind of trade-off. Looks like Daniel is targeting console and PC though.
Yeah, it depends on what console it is. If it's targeting Game Boy, it's different than it's going to be targeting PlayStation 4.
Let's assume that he's referring to like PlayStation and Xbox type consoles.
Yeah, I think you should be totally all right with 400 draw calls. But, you can have as many draw calls as you want, kind of. What you cannot have so much of is the number of set passes, right? So if you just go to your project, you reduce the number of shaders.
I think that's what he was asking about is the set pass calls.
Yeah. So if you go to your project and then you reduce the number of shaders that you use, like unique shaders, which includes shader variants and all of these things, to let's say 5, you're gonna be all right. That's a very nice goal to reach, right? To reduce the number of set passes. And therefore the number of different shaders that you use. If you go for 5 shaders, unique shaders or shader variants, you're gonna be totally fine with 5. But that's hard, okay? Like by default, when I do consulting with my clients and they show me their projects, I see like at least, let's say 500, 600 different shader variants. And that's bad because of set passes, that's bad because of compile times. That happen in runtime in your target device for the players. They also see the compile times of the shaders. That's also bad for memory. That's bad for your health in general, right?
Awesome. Wow. And thank you for another super chat here, Daniel. Let's see. Is there a way to batch text mesh with sprites or UI images while using sorting group, or should I use zdep to avoid this BS?
Batch text mesh with sprites. I haven't seen any. I haven't got any experience in terms of trying to batch text mesh with anything else. I mean, I tried once. It was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I guess, when I was working on Star Trek for King's Quest. And I was happy enough to get one draw call for all the text components and one draw call for the other sprites. That was totally fine by me. I think the overhead didn't really. I consider the overhead not to pay off at all, right? So I don't really know how to answer that question. Other than that,
Do you think using Z depth could be a solution?
I don't know, honestly. Like the fewer times when I have messed around with the set buffer for UI is when I decided to make my UI totally opaque. That way you can avoid rendering everything that is behind the UI, which is pretty cool, right? For example, if you have like, I don't know, for example, a client of mine had like black bars or black backgrounds to limit how the aspect ratio worked. And if this was the screen, right?
Yep.
Then maybe like 70% of that was only visible and the 30% remaining was covered with a black background. And that was being capped through UI, right? What I did is just to make that part of the UI totally opaque, and everything that was 3D but covered by this opaque UI wouldn't get rendered anymore. Sure, you pay the price for the draw calls, but you don't pay the price that comes from overdraw, which is basically the most expensive thing you can do on mobile.
Interesting.
What is this super chat thing, man? You didn't tell me about it, Johnny. You need to invite me for a drink after so many super chats.
That's what I'm saying. Come out to America for GDC, and I'll buy you a drink.
Sounds like a good deal, right? How much was that? The GDC, the ticket usually?
You gotta pay like $2,000 and then plus a plane flight over.
Yeah, I think I will pass this year. I've gone to GDC, I think it was 4 years ago. It was pretty good, but there are also some other conferences in Europe, even in Berlin, where I'm living right now. I think it's called White Nights or something like this. Let me check. White Nights.
And it's a game development type conference?
Yeah, it is indeed. White Nights, not... Well, I said the same, right? White Nights, Berlin. And there is also another one called Pocket Gamers or PG Connects that is in London. I went there 3 years ago or something like this. It was quite a lot of fun as well. So, you're paying for the GDC, Daniel?
He's just he put in another super chat here, so thank you for the 2 Canadians. That's awesome. And then he does have another question. When one needs to layer text with images in something like cards in hand. So I think that's what he's referring to for like talking about batching text mesh sprites and UI images.
I mean, if you're talking about cards in hand, I assume it's something like a deck builder, which it's a type of game that I really like. By the way, I started playing one game called Chrono Arc. It was quite a lot of fun, also using cards and such. If you have cards on the hand, then you have two possibilities, right? Did my camera freeze? No. One possibility is to use sprites. The other, in general, is to use UI, right? I normally tend to leave UI for just user interfaces. Like main menus,
like things that need to actually be dynamic, and that makes sense.
Buttons and such, because UI is very expensive. And then anything that's gameplay related, I tend to leave as sprites. But nevertheless, whatever you do, you can make your shaders opaque, and I guess that makes sense for a card, because if you want to have a high-performing game, you just don't need to render what's behind the card, right? The worst case scenario is that you get one of these cards, like I'm going to use this ticket. You put it like a full screen in front of your face, and you're still rendering everything behind that card by using the default behavior of Unity. So whatever you're using, a sprite or a UI, you can always, just make an opaque UI shader and save yourself from the trouble of, the overdraw. Hey, someone is planning to move to Berlin, Johnny.
Yeah, I see
who's
that.
person?
Unity ECS. Unity ECS is moving to Berlin. That's cool. Is there a good game development scene in Berlin? Do you have some people that you know nearby that
Yeah.
you chat with or meet up with at all?
Yeah, so there is Vuga. It's a pretty big company, a competitor of King, if you would like. I have worked with them in the past for many, many projects. I don't know how many employees they have, maybe more than 100 or something.
Okay.
They are pretty much in the center of Berlin, near Alexanderplatz.
And they do a lot of mobile stuff as well?
Yeah, I think it's almost exclusively mobile. I've done some WebGL stuff, but yeah, I don't think that's the goal anymore. It's
Gotcha.
mostly mobile stuff, right? And then we have, I think there might be an office from King as well. There is also, I think there is Blue Byte in Berlin. Let me check. Blue Byte Berlin. Yes, there is. Yes, there is a Blue Byte office in Berlin. If you are into that, right? And there is also Clan Games. There are a lot of small studios as well. So InnoGames, I think InnoGames was in Hamburg, wasn't it? There's a filial as well in Berlin. I'm probably out of the loop.
See, InnoGames Hamburg. Yep.
Yeah, I had a colleague who was living in the north of Germany, and he came over when we were working together, and he sometimes stayed at my place, and he told me a lot of stuff about InnoGames, and yeah, that's why I know InnoGames, because it's in Hamburg, and he was telling me about it. Sprites are tightly packed, but cards are rectangles.
I think you had a question before that. Why not UI? I use it for my card game. Reason being, UI is bashed automatically in the best way, heard in Unity talks. And then sprites are tightly packed, but cards are rectangles.
Yeah, so UI is very slow. Unless you are talking about UI toolkit, I think it's called. They tend to rename these packages, so it's
their new UI thing. Yeah.
It's UI toolkit or UI runtime. They keep renaming these kind of packages. So I'm out of the loop. I think it's called UI toolkit. If you can learn that, I would advise you to do that. Because it addresses the performance problems from the UI system. And the UI system, like the normal one, the one that has been established for a long time, it's very slow, right? I guess for a reason, sure. But whenever you see something like it's kind of purple in the profiler, it is because of the UI. Let me give you an example. Let's assume that you have a complex UI. Like, for example, one of the games I worked on was Catan Universe. I worked a bit there in that game. It's full of UI. You have cards. You have so many things going on, right? Every time that you touch one vertex or anything from any element, you need to do what we call a canvas rebuild, which is basically throwing away all the vertices and batching and everything that you calculated and cached, and you have to go over that again and again and again. And if I just open my profiler here, I'm sure I'm going to see some nice surprise. So every transform that you make is going to cost you. Here, I'm going to show it. No, actually, no.
Please.
This is 100 milliseconds. Update batches. Yeah. So animations are super expensive in UI and any type of changes, right? That's why I want to go for real time. For gameplay stuff, I go for sprites usually. If anything, maybe I can also even go for a mesh, but... Oh no! I think I broke Karen's heart. No worries, man. If you did your whole game with it, it's still fine. You can leave it like that. You just need to take things in consideration, like avoid doing transformations. Like, when you have a card that you really want the player to play, that you make a shiny effect. Careful with this kind of stuff. If you don't do that, you should be fine. But always check the profiler, okay? You might be totally fine. All right. So Daniel, who's Daniel? What's Daniel saying? Can you give an example of a high-performing game you released and its typical assets, set pass and draw call count? What can I say about the games that I have been working on? I think the best example right now would be probably the game I'm working on for one specific consulting client. Super low-end device. Maybe you missed that at the beginning of the stream. This is a Chromebook, 2 cores, 2 threads, and pretty bad at the CPU. The budget is 40 draw calls, right? You don't want to go beyond 40, 50 draw calls for this kind of platforms. And I don't know why, but these things still cost me like, I think I bought this laptop, it was like $400. Like, I would rather do so many other things with $400 other than to buy such a bad laptop. But yeah.
You could get one of those Switch OLEDs for that kind of money.
Oh, yeah. Actually, yeah. But you know what? What I got for myself, Johnny? You see this? In 1 minute, maybe?
I do.
I think you...
Yeah. Oh, is that a new strap on it?
Yes, because I had this original one from, not the original, but the official one that was like $50 from Oculus, right? I don't know how it's called, like Elite strap, I think it's called.
Right. Yeah.
And
yeah.
I heard about, after buying that, I heard that, people were saying like, hey, it broke on my case. So I said, well, let's see how long it holds. And after 1 month or something, I started to see the small, the small lines, and like I'm about to break, and it broke. I was like, fuck, I'm not going to buy anything else. I'm just going to tape it. And I taped it, and it held for a month, and then it broke from 2 other different parts. I said, Jesus, this is already too much. I was like full of tape. My hair, which is quite long, got stuck in the tape. So I said, yeah, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
So I went to Amazon, and then I looked for alternatives, and I also asked Johnny for some type of suggestion.
Yeah, because I have.
Something cool about this one is that as a developer, oops, I almost broke it. As a developer, what I do very often is just to put it on and put it off all the time, and that is very annoying.
Yeah.
So the cool thing about this one is that I can actually tilt it like this, right?
I'm
not promoting anything. I don't care. I don't have even affiliate links for this kind of stuff. But if you tilt it like this, if you flip it, then it becomes super easy just to have a look and see what's going on.
Yeah, and then here's the one that I have. Oh, I think this is the Bobo VR with the little battery on the back. So, and you can kind of like tilt this one too, and just.
Man, that looks pretty.
Can't really do it with my headphones on, but
it's a Bobo VR, right?
Bobo VR.
Somehow that reminds me of that stupid TV show. It's called Bobo. Do you know it, Johnny?
I've never heard of that.
All right, I have to post an image, man. Let me look, because it's epically stupid, huh? But there is a market for everything, right? So it's about a guy who kind of fights with the hairs of his nose or something like this. Very stupid. But I cannot pass on the occasion to mention that thing. Oh, you need to put that right on the chat. If you want. Just say that it's coming out of me.
Oh, boy.
Kind of reminds me of this TV show, the name of Bobo VR with Bo. Anyway.
That's funny.
So is it cool to use tools like Lean Twin for UI animation? So I normally use Twin, but I mean, that's better than using animators, absolutely. Avoid using animators if you can, and use twins instead. But for UI, you don't really want to do animations if you're looking for a high-performing game, or you have to be very specific about how you structure your canvas for that to happen. Like I went for this client, and then I removed like all animations, like all of them. And it's a pity because they had like these highlights and such. Not anymore, static highlights. Because of this, you can pay literally 30 milliseconds just for one change in UI, right? In these kind of platforms, so you cannot really pay that. You don't have the budget, right? And 30 FPS is like such a bad target, right? Nowadays, you don't really want to ship at 30 FPS.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah,
not even
it's
60.
kind of player expectation now, especially with like the new consoles. Everyone is expecting 60 FPS bare minimum, and really are like looking for 120, ideally.
Yeah, and that's because 60 would be like for me the bare minimum nowadays. But even between 60 and 120 FPS, you see such a huge difference. I see this myself, right? And I wouldn't be able. I don't think I would be able to tell the difference between 120 and 240, for example. I have done some tests in the monitor that I have, and I am not able to. So you suddenly reach this point of diminishing results.
Mm-hmm.
But 120 would be like my minimum to publish anything for hardcore gamers, at least, right? If you're targeting casual gamers, then who cares? To match 3 gems of the same color, who cares? But anything you want to release to Steam, I wouldn't go for anything below 120, personally.
Reading through chat here to see if there's any kind of interesting ideas. Seems like, yeah, people are kind of talking about the different ways that they do animations for UI.
Did my camera freeze? No. Stupid camera.
I think you're good.
Yeah, performance. It's actually a nice niche to specialize in, I believe, in my opinion. Because not so many
I'd say
people
so.
like it, and that's why projects are not performing well at the end and the last minutes, and that's where you can actually jump in to help.
I think I've asked you this before, but how did you kind of get into performance? Did you kind of did a little bit of this right in your job, and then and did you just kind of find a liking to that and started to do more kind of research and experimentation with it on your own?
Yeah, basically, I think it started a long time ago when I was working with Vuga, right? Back in, I don't know, 2000 something, of course, 2000 something. That people were super happy and motivated to push features, but they were not happy to make them performant, right? And I didn't mind, so I took the chance and the challenge of doing good stuff, and I actually liked it a lot. I liked in general. I like to develop games, right? And I care for the games that I develop, even if they're not technically mine. Maybe I'm just helping out a client or a company or something. I still check the reviews of these games. And I
because you kind of still had your hands on it in some kind of way, and you kind of helped, and like you were saying, a lot of the people come to you kind of at that last final push of development. So you're like, you really feel like you're helping get that game out the door. So that is super cool.
Yeah, and part of that was checking and reading the reviews of the players, right? I've read every type of review in my life, right? And all the games that I've been working on. Makes me proud and gives me ownership. It gives me responsibility, a feeling of responsibility for the stuff that I do. And many people were complaining about performance. And that performance is a problem if you see someone like, I don't know, your mother or someone who's not a gamer complain about it, right? If someone complains about that, and it's not a hardcore gamer, you're in trouble. And that is how I started, right? Because I didn't want to give a bad experience to my users. And then I decided to specialize in performance. I mean, I still do gameplay programming and AI and all of these things, but I always have, performance in the back of my mind. I think so. It's also hard, and I like when things get hard, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. I feel like probably every project you work on is going to have its own challenges that come along with it, new problems that you need to figure out, new ways that you need to think about how to improve the performance.
Exactly. Especially you, specializing in dots. I think that's pretty amazing. Even for Chromebooks with 2 threads and 2 cores, still you get a lot of performance juice, right? From the job system and burst and all of these things.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But yeah.
Have you been able to implement a little bit of jobs and burst into that project at all?
Not on this project. Like at the beginning of last year, I was working in a project for. Not gonna say anything. I don't want to get in jail. I don't want anyone to bring me to jail for saying the wrong things.
Go to Unity jail.
I wonder how it is. I was working on a AAA game, and it was 100% based on dots. If someone caught you submitting any mono behavior or anything weird that is not dots compatible, or it's just not specifically dots, you will get in trouble, right? I mean, not like you will get fired or something, but they will deny your code review or something. So that was pretty much the biggest challenge I had because Unity just didn't have many of the things that you need.
Right, and that was a little while ago that you were working on that project, right?
Yeah, I think it was like February, March last year, something like this.
Okay.
And yeah, so.
Yeah, you can keep talking. I'm gonna.
You have a bit of sun in the head, man. Are you okay, man? I also have a bit of sun in my head, right? On my eyes. If I could just get a good tan out of looking at the monitor, man, just imagine how brown would it be, man. Instead of just enjoying the sun, just being in front of the monitor and all the rays, like just, giving you a nice tan. That would be
what kind of monitor setup do you have? Do you have multiple monitors? You got a widescreen? What are you rocking?
Yeah, I have like a Samsung Odyssey G7 or something like that, which features up to 240 hertz, I think, and it's let's see if I say this right, 1440p, and the 1440, thanks. And the other one is just a full HD that I use just for whatever, for streaming and such.
Nice.
Nothing too crazy. What do you think, Johnny? You're gonna post this video later for Ken?
Yeah. The replay will be available basically as soon as after we end this, unless there's any funky stuff that YouTube decides to do. But typically there hasn't been any problems with that. So yeah, it'll definitely be available afterwards. What's
this thing, Johnny? I mean, I'm in this Latin platform for streaming. There is something called Buy Me a Drink. Is this something like the Super Chat or something like this, I assume?
Yeah, maybe it's some kind of baked-in tipping service that they have.
Okay. Wouldn't it be amazing to have something like Buy Me a Car or something instead of a drink?
Buy me a car.
Yeah. So yeah, anything else to talk about, Johnny? Do you actually need to go to work or something today?
I am going to be basically just working on some video editing today, so I don't have anything necessarily scheduled out that I need to get to, so we can still hang out for a little bit.
All right. I may just change the background.
All right. And yeah, if anyone else has any performance questions, feel free to go ahead and post those in the chat. But yeah, otherwise, I don't know. Are there any other interesting performance topics that maybe have been relevant to some of the things that you've been working on lately that you wanted to bring up at all?
So many things. Where to start? Yeah, I think this specific consulting client is taking up like 60% of my working time. So it's pretty nice actually, because it's such a weak device that forces you to be creative at the stuff that you are doing, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you have a question, Daniel?
Yeah, feel free to go ahead and post it. Do you feel like you're making some pretty good progress and you have a plan to get to kind of your target performance levels for that?
Yeah, we have to. So this project is basically going to be, let's say, played, but by at least 1 million people. And 1 million people are going to have crappy Chromebooks like this. So it is very important for my client, and of course for me, that these people can actually, enjoy at least 30 FPS, right? It's mostly for the education sector, right? So, I kind of found of an extra type of meaning, right, to this end goal of optimization, right? And I just don't want to be a full-time teacher either. I want to do stuff, right? I want to do real field work. Otherwise,
Yeah, work on projects, be a little more hands-on. Kind of like what
Exactly.
you're saying, working with companies. Yeah.
I need to
Which is
see
something
real world, right? I need to keep seeing that, and that's why I force
Yeah,
myself to do consulting as well, because I think, I don't know about you, but I went to this university, and you could tell who had real life experience and who were just teachers, like just teachers. I don't want to be the other type of people who know a lot about theory, but then you just give them a project and then they don't know how to start. So that's a personal thing, I assume. But if I could choose, maybe 50% of my time consulting, 50% maybe teaching, would be really, really good, right?
Nice, yeah.
What's
All right,
that?
I do see we have some performance questions, but was
Someone found a 404 error. The page you're looking
I know.
for.
I was just gonna ask it because I think that was the. Did you take down our page that we had together, like the?
No, I would never do this to you, Johnny. What are you talking about?
You sure?
Yeah, for sure. Let me see. So, see for yourself. I just posted the link to you. I did a few changes, but this should still be working.
Maybe
someone had the wrong link for whatever reason, and then.
No, maybe my here, I'll post that in the chat. But yeah, maybe my my short link stopped working.
You brought it down, huh? You don't believe in my task force membership anymore, Johnny. Is that so?
I do see you updated your page to comply with the new industry standards of 60 to 501 frames per second. Nice.
I sent an email, I think, 2 days ago about the first monitor rendering at 500.
Yeah. I read that. Interesting.
Full HD, right? Because I think in the past there were monitors like 1000 hertz, but it was like 100 pixels.
A calculator.
By 100 pixels. Yeah, exactly. But this is the trend, man. People, want to see higher frame rates, higher frequencies. You see this in the monitors. You see this in PlayStation. You see this on phones, right? Like this one, for example, it's a Mate 20 Pro. This has, I think, like 120 hertz. This is the trend, man. This is the standard.
Yeah.
I don't know if they make sense, but that is how it is.
All right, so we do have a couple questions here. So Unreal Engine Nanite is basically a graphics trick, right? Do Do you know?
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you?
Unreal Engine Nanite is basically a graphics trick. Are you familiar with the Unreal Engine Nanite?
I have worked for 3-4 years with Unreal Engine 4, and since then I haven't really kept me up to date with the newer technologies like Nanite, I guess. I think that's basically an aggressive type of loading, right? Which part of the, one of the biggest part of the job is to actually have tools and pipelines that allow studios to ship this kind of stuff.
Right.
So I guess the revolution there is part the technique, but it's also part, the workflows. So, I mean, everything is graphics tricks at the end, right? Like, I have done so many tricks just to ship my games. It's like
nothing wrong with a trick as long as it looks good, right?
Indeed, there was a game. I forgot the name. Probably it was something like Duke Nukem 3D or something. I don't know. Basically, a way to fake a mirror was just to, I don't know how it was, just kind of to clone the character and then just change the scale.
Yeah.
And just move it together with you. So that's also a graphics trick, right?
All right. Unity editor takes ages to compile and start. Disabled hot reloading, but still while compiling it does domain reloading. Any tips on that?
Yeah, use assembly definition files. I think that can help a lot. And yes, there's also something else, which it's maybe not the final solution, but it might help you learn a few things. One thing that will help you is to understand compile times in the editor. That includes as well iteration times, even if you do not hit build. And the other thing is maybe it helps you understand how OpenUPM works if you have never used it. And this is a tool made by one friend from Twitter. Here, I'm just going to post the link for you. It's called the Compilation Visualizer, and I think you can get it from OpenUPM. And this has like a graph. It tells you where you're spending your compilation times on, right? It tells you which ones are able to be done in parallel and which ones are being sequentially compiled. And it helps you find dependencies, right? So give this blog post a look.
Yeah, definitely.
Help you.
I just posted it in the chat there. So yeah, I think I'm gonna definitely read through that myself. I think that'd be an interesting read. All right, let's see. How can I performantly separate a simple data model from visuals so you can simulate things without relying on the Unity sprites, UI, etc., for more than interaction and view? Goes on to say, like entire model in some scriptable object or mono behavior static class.
Can you use maybe, I guess if it's read only, you can use this blob assets. Johnny, you know more than me about this kind of stuff.
Yeah. So blob assets, that's part of the Unity's entity component system, and basically blob assets are for immutable data.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if that works, but.
And actually, that's kind of what I did for my Game of Life project. Is I basically have two entities for every single cell on the grid. So I have one basically data entity and then one visual entity. So then the data entities, they basically do all the actual like calculations of checking the cells around them and everything like that. The reason that I kind of did that was so I can have more of the data entities because they're a lot more lightweight. I can fit more of them into one chunk, which means they're going to be together in memory. So when they actually reference each other, I'm going to get more cache hits, basically just kind of optimizing for performance on that level. And then the render entities basically just reference the data entities to determine whether they need to be basically rendered as a live cell or a dead cell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I barely touched them when I had to last year, and it was the way to go, right, for immutable data. If you are not talking about immutable data or read-only data, I guess you could use scriptable objects, a reference to those in your components, and the typical way to do that. Normally, I like to use structs, right? Because they're a bit friendly on the garbage collector if you do them right. You hear all the time people saying, "Oh, this thing with the heap or the stack. This is an implementation thing. You should never have to worry about it." So what a bullshit, I have to say. Like, if you're programming things like I don't know, like a web app or whatever, okay, fine. But if you're making a game, you don't want to make allocations happen, right? Like, allocations are super slow. It is not only the garbage collection; it's so slow. Like, maybe half of the cost coming from the scripts on this client, for example, was coming from the allocations themselves. Memory is very slow, so you need to know the difference between heap and stack. Whoever says it's an implementation detail, you shouldn't never have to worry about it. Just send them over to me, okay? I will talk with
them. We'll have a chat. Let's see. And I thought the thing with Nanite is it doesn't work well with dynamic scenes and objects. I guess that makes sense, right? It's kind of more for static environments, right?
I have very little idea about that.
I don't have any hands-on experience with it myself, but that's what it seems like.
Yeah, I guess that if you want to get the most out of your hardware, you have to pre-bake as much as you can, right? So it's like occlusion cooling. It doesn't work like really, on runtime, everything. You have to pre-bake 90% of that. You couldn't just pay the price for that in runtime. And if you paid for the price, then you are losing on other parts of your budget, right? You are taking a huge part of your chunk, and therefore you cannot do the best with your hardware. So it is always going to be to pre-bake a part of your pipelines and processes.
Ron says, I already checked your post on that. I read every blog of yours. Nice. Sounds like you got a super fan.
Thank you, Carl. Make sure to subscribe and press the buy me a car button, all right?
Let's see. Should I use instantiating structs for dynamic effects like deal damage or stick with classes?
Well, one thing is the data model, right? And the other is the representation of that. For the representation, you can always have some type of pooled, wherever, text mesh pro component, particle systems or something like this. And then to hold the data for the amount of damage that you do, maybe it's just enough with an integer, right? And I mean, one of the important things that I've learned about game development is that you need to be very careful with the amount of state that you store, right? Because state leads to bugs. So if you can just hold 4 integers instead of 10 integers, that's usually better, because then you have fewer variables to keep track of, right? In case you have any sort of problems. So it's usually better to try to infer or derive some information out of the existing variables rather than to, just kind of cache it. But, this is always relative. So I don't know if you need a data structure for damage, right? Maybe it's just an integer. Just take the integer, calculate damage, you get an integer out, and then, just go to your text mesh pro UI.text, and then just put the number there, which is going to cost you some allocations, I assume, because of the strings. And that will be a different topic on itself, but,
It says, this is assuming I need to instantiate these and keep a reference to them to trigger later held inside a class. Would they still be bad for the garbage collector? He says no, pure interaction of said entity, no visuals, just reducing or increasing or setting or grabbing integers, enums, etc.
Sounds about right to me, right? Sounds like good stuff.
Like spawning a struct that has a description of the entity target, damage amount, and perhaps a modifier of strength.
What do you think, Johnny? Any type of life advice you would like to give Daniel in this area?
Trying to think. Seems fine, right? I mean,
it does to me. All right. Anything else on the plate? Or should we just head on for the next tasks? Which for me is going to be kind of at 6 p.m. Still need to send a few emails actually. So
okay. I guess we can wrap it up with this. It sounds like he's asking, should this be a class or a struct, and why?
I tend to use structs as much as I can for data because they tend to be stored in the stack. But don't take that part wrong. It depends what you do with the struct. Sometimes it's stored in the stack, sometimes it's stored in the heap. But having said that, if you use structs, then you have more chances that it's actually being used on the stack, which reduces allocations. I have one lesson planned about that, about the stack versus the heap. I don't know when it will be released, maybe 3 months, 2 or 3 months. And it goes really deep into that because, like I said, everyone who says that you shouldn't care about that is, I guess, they just haven't experienced performance problems in the past or something. But yeah, shortly put, structures I tend to use more for data. Just like blob assets, right? I think there are also structs and a lot of stuff in dots.
Most of the data components are structs, and that's kind of how a lot of the optimizations are made. I mean, there are some things that are still classes, like if you want to reference some things that don't have their own ECS equivalent yet, then you still need to kind of use classes, and it's not as performance, and you can't do a lot of the same optimizations, so you kind of really need to limit yourself on how you use those and where you can where you're doing those transformations to minimize like the amount of sync points and things that are happening like that.
What a beautiful word, sync points.
Sync points.
I really like it.
By the way, I did have a video coming out last week on sync points. So if you do want to learn a little bit more of those, go check that out.
How was it? Was it hard to make it? Did you have to study a bit of everything, or?
That was kind of a fun video to make, actually. Basically, what I did for the sample project is I just spawned this like entire field of cubes, and then I basically have like one job where it's just moving them up and down, and then another job that's happening later that's rotating them around. And then so actually what I did is I intentionally put a sync point in between those two jobs, and then you can see that basically it has to await completion of the first up and down job before the rotational job can complete, even though they don't share any of the same kind of dependencies. But then once I was able to actually eliminate that sync points that I had put in there intentionally, you can see that these two jobs can now run in parallel.
Man, I really like to hear this kind of stuff, like running something in parallel. I'm going to actually make your picture bigger to give you, the attention and the honors that you desire. You how to say in English? Just gonna put you in the highlight, okay, and focus, because what you're saying is so beautiful, right? Running things in parallel. It's just great if you have like a CPU with a lot of cores, right? But even if you're running a big Chromebook with 2 Threads is still useful, right? Because of the burst and all of these things.
No doubt. All right. Well, cool. That was a fun stream. Glad we got to talk about a lot of interesting performance topics. Obviously, thank you for the questions, people. And of course, thank you to Daniel for the super chats. That was super fun. I'll definitely have to buy Ruben a drink when he decides to come out here.
A car, please. Thank you. I hope you guys also liked my improvised OBS layout. By the way, the only reason we did this is because Johnny's connection was a bit slow. And I decided to host it, and I had no setup yet. So let's say, okay, what do we do? Two options: either we do not do the live stream, or we just do an improvised OBS layout and we still do the live stream. I think the second option was a bit better.
Yeah, this was fun. I'm glad it worked out.
Thanks everybody for joining.
Definitely. And I'll be sure to put in the link to Ruben's task force. Definitely go check that out. He breaks down a ton of awesome Unity performance related topics. So if you did like the things that he was saying here, definitely think that you will enjoy the content over there. I definitely find it extremely valuable myself. But yeah.
Thanks, man. Thanks, guys. Maybe we do another live stream next month or something, right, Johnny?
Yeah. These are always fun.
All right. Bye-bye.
Cool.